Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Why wait to earn the degree you deserve? You have the experience. You have the knowledge. Now's the time to get the credit for the work you've done and earn the recognition you deserve by starting your comeback at Purdue Global. It's time to earn a degree you'll be proud of, a degree that employers will respect. It's never too late. Never too late to come back stronger and move forward in your career. Start your comeback today at purdueglobal.edu. Purdue's online university for working adults.
You're listening to 100 Words or Less with Ray Harkins. What is happening, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of this podcast where we talk to people who are involved in independent music and love it dearly. Like it's at the core of their being. And then they maybe like put out some records or they maybe like tour, you know, all of those things that we care about. Punk, hardcore, indie rock, emo, whatever it is, that is what we document here. And today I've got a great discussion with Jesse Matthewson. He plays in a band called Ken Mode from the very middle of Canada, if I'm not mistaken. I'm fairly certain that's where they're from. Well, regardless, they're from Canada. I can tell you that. And they are, going on 20 plus years as a band, definitely in the loud and noisy variety. I first got into them via the Hydra Records connection. No, that's not true. Escape Artist Records, because Jesse and I nerd out about that a lot. But Ken Mode is just a really, really interesting and good band. And Jesse also works in the music industry as like a business manager. He helps out with finances and makes sure that, bands are, just doing the right thing, spending their money appropriately. But let's talk some things that you should know about. First of all, you can always email the show, 100wordspodcast@gmail.com. Second of all, you can leave a rating and review. People ask, honestly, all the time how to support the show. Because sometimes I get like, people are like, yo, can I send you $5 on PayPal? No. Don't do that. Don't worry about that. It's all good. But what you can do is you can leave a rating and review on the Apple Podcast page. That helps out tremendously. Or you can leave a rating on the Spotify page. If you listen to podcasts on Spotify, it helps out tremendously. Also, I publish these chats on YouTube. So if you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, there's a link in the show notes where you will be able to subscribe. And that way you will not miss an episode from that side of things. Also, I'm doing a new thing this year where each week I will be recommending something music-wise that I enjoyed and that you should pay attention to. So I'm going to continue that. First week, I recommended something, so you'll have to, pay attention to that. But the most important note is the fact that I'll include a link in the show notes as well, where you can dive into a playlist and be able to listen to the music that I'm recommending. And this week's recommendation is a band from Europe. I think they're from Berlin. I could be wrong. Called Force of Denial. Holy crap. If you like anything 90s hardcore, if we're talking like classic Victory Records style stuff, Strife, Earth Crisis, Snapcase, but, with modern twist, Force of Denial, it's a 4-song EP. It's called Times of Strife, which, of course, Strife, it's funny. Anytime you can connect a band name to a band name that has, or a record name to a band name that has existed in the past, I'm all ears. But Force of Denial, really, really good. They have a guest spot from the vocalist of Magnitude. They also have a guest spot from someone in the band Spark, who's really, really good. But yes, a 4-song EP. If you like your hardcore, classic, and 90s filled, then you will absolutely adore what this band has in store. So again, a link in the show notes, and you will be able to listen to this band and then all the previous recommendations. I'm going to be doing one a week for the rest of this year. So there we go. Let's talk about Jesse. like I said, Ken Mode, really interesting band. They're getting more popular, which is awesome because, a band that's been 20 plus years in their career, sometimes it's kind of just like, all right, we're totally content with the fan base that we have and, there isn't much that we can do. But Ken Mode seems to be catching more and more people's attention, which is awesome. And I love that. And Jesse was a great hang. So without further ado, that's so many people say that, right? When it's like tossing off the interview portion without further ado. But anyways, I will try to not lean on that cliche. So here we go. Let's talk to Jesse. Great hang. I got exposed to you many moons ago via your Escape Artist release because I was.
Damn, you are old school then. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're talking like I am a early 40s hardcore kid, so and I like how we refer to ourselves as kids, regardless.
Yeah, because a hardcore kid is a hardcore kid forever.
So yeah, no matter which way you slice it.
But if you were an Escape Artist fan, you weren't a regular hardcore kid.
I appreciate you. I feel seen, Jesse. Thank you for saying that. But I was obsessed with everything that Gordon put out. Even down to Time in Malta or what have you. But how about all the releases that came out like right near the end of their time, which were super underappreciated and all like just killer records. Yes, I agree.
Blunderbuss, The Dream Is Dead.
Totally.
What else did they do? Collapse Are Us.
Yeah, no, totally. And you mentioning that, like that time, especially like in the early, to mid 2000s was so interesting for, for lack of a better term, like artistic heavy stuff, with bands like obviously you guys, Mastodon, Breathe the Resist. And so many more that you toured with. I know that you guys were obviously removed geographically from a lot of that stuff that was happening, but did you feel, for lack of a better term, that you were kind of part of a scene because there was stuff happening, or no?
Ish, but not really. We were like definitely on the young side of all the bands going at that time, and we also didn't tour very hard. And that actually becomes like a recurring theme with us, and part of why we had clear-cut resurgence in the very end of the aughts and like early 2010s when we were literally throwing everything into touring full-time because we felt like that was the only way we could really get any recognition, at least wider spread. Because Escape Artist had some, and like case in point, you heard us, but they weren't a popular label. They were a weird one. They were like Hydra Head's like uncool little brother, even though I guess I don't even know if you should say little brother because like they probably started around the same time.
But yeah, no, you're right. It was basically like you had your big two of Hydra Head and Relapse, and then like you had what Gordon was doing, and then you had like Hawthorne Street, just random labels. But yeah, I understand your point.
Yeah, but like Escape Artist was one of those ones that like pound for pound, I felt like they didn't miss on anything. And like all those labels missed on some things, at least for my personal taste. So I think that's part of why we've had such a long-standing relationship with people like Gordon Conrad. Not to exclude Adam Peterson, who is his partner in Escape Artist, but because Gordon has continued to work within the industry and we worked with him all through our time at Season of Mist as well, we can't shake that guy. And he can't shake us, even now. Like last year, the go-to guy we have when we have problems on the East Coast, Gordon, help. Who do you know? Help, Gordon.
Well, I love that description because people throw around the word lifer, and that can mean different things to different people in regards to like, oh, they're a lifer, where like, they're going to be involved with this thing. But then some people, they trickle out of like working in the music industry or playing bands or whatever. But like Gordon, by any stretch of the imagination, is lifer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it consumes his life thoroughly. You gotta believe he enjoys some of it.
Right. Totally.
He has to, even though he's grumpy, he has to enjoy some of this.
He has to. Yeah. I mean, especially like what you were talking about, where it's like because you were, touring, but not to the same degree as many of those other bands. Like, I'm sure there was that ability to, ride off the coattails of certain bands just because it was like, oh yes, like, we get compared to this band, so people will check it out by default.
Yeah, I never really got much of a sense of how far that went back in the day. And again, it's really just we're kids. The internet was like very new to most people. And us being in Winnipeg, it was so hard to take a proper temperature gauge of where we existed in that general scene situation. I definitely know we connected more with it when we started touring the US all the time in like 2010. Because we, even off the hop, the first like re-entry to the States, we did shows with Gaza, Engineer, Clinging to the Trees of a Forest Fire, Rosetta. Like we connected with the right bands and kind of started that. I feel like the re-emergence we did properly, as opposed to when we were kids, we were just flailing wildly.
Totally. And we'll talk about that feeling a little bit later, but the focus on you as a person, were you actually born and raised in Winnipeg? I know that probably seems like very basic of me to find out, but I was not aware.
Yeah, I was. I was born and raised here with my brother. I have two brothers, but only one of them is in Ken mode.
Right. Your other brother, obviously, he just wasn't able to hack it with you guys, huh?
No. He's like almost 6 years younger than me too. He took to powerlifting instead of playing rock music, and now he's a doctor. So he did something right.
Yeah, I would dare say he did much better than you. No, I'm just kidding.
We're all broken in the same way, though. So he's just as unhappy.
Exactly. It's just a different shade of broken. It's totally fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm going to kind of, typify maybe your experience of growing up in Winnipeg. Cause I mean, all I know about Winnipeg is going through their own tour once. And obviously it's a very interesting / desolate, major metropolitan area, but then also obviously not. I'm going to guess that you were forced to play hockey. You had no choice in the matter. Like, what was your upbringing like?
I actually wasn't.
Wow.
I'm a weird one too, in that I did play hockey, but it was because I really, really wanted to. And I started, I think I was 10. So I was like a way late bloomer. So,
okay.
But that ended as soon as the dirty grip of underground music grabbed my neck. So,
right.
Basically, most things in my life got destroyed when that happened.
As most good things do, where it's like, you know what, there's no room for anything else. I'm just going to pay attention to dumb, loud bands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I used to draw. I used to have so many things going on and just destroyed. I want to play music. I want to go see shows.
Right.
That poor kid.
I know, that old chestnut. So did you care about school? Like, what was the relationship looking like with your brothers in the house? Like, were you guys all, just goofing around and wrestling with each other? Or what was the vibe?
I mean, there's a little of that. We didn't do a ton of it, but like school was very important too. Like our parents are both chartered accountants, and not performing well at school was not an option. So we were like nerds, but not nerds, like angry nerds who would kill you if you crossed them.
Sure. Threatening nerds. Right.
But and they only really, I guess you can't escape the nerd side, but like, we did well in school, but like weren't your usual like nerds. But I'm sure like that's what a lot of the scene is made up of, especially like the artsy fartsy side. Like they're usually pretty intelligent people who are able to put bands together that think outside the box. Or maybe I'm just extrapolating. There's also a lot of dumbasses, so I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass at this point.
No. Well, I think the idea of what you're talking about, where it's like there is a level of, intelligence, albeit maybe small, to be able to, get together a group of friends to play music and then actually write some songs and put out a demo and, have those logical steps because, like that does take effort in ways that some people just don't want to put towards that.
Yeah. But even specifically like the style of music, when it's a little brainier, a little artier, it has a tendency to attract a certain type of person. And again, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but like, I mean, if you chat with who's a good example, Brian Cook, he's a good ambassador of people who play good, interesting, heavy music, and he's not a moron.
I would agree.
Brian would love that. That's the example.
Totally. He's gonna be like, you know what? I play bass very well. I play in a broad genres of music, and I'm just like
I'm not a moron,
right? An artistic not moron, I guess. But I do understand where you're coming from in regards to, especially it's like most people obviously enter this independent music scene via, punk or hardcore. And it's very, simple and basic. Yeah. And then as you start to, progress and your mind expands a little bit and you are able to wrap your head around more intricate things, not everybody continues to go down that path. I can't tell you. And I'm sure you have many friends that are just like, dude, why do you like Neurosis? Like that, they have like 9-minute long songs. You're like, yeah, they could go 14 and I'm fine.
And just the people we've made friends with as a result of music, like they're all
right.
There's a reason we're friends with them. Bunch of fucking nerds. Fucking nerds.
Totally. I have to place the Winnipeg, a wreath on you in regards to the fact that there's obviously most people point to a band like Propagandhi, and obviously like
we
weaker
actually
bands.
do their accounting.
Of course you do. Yeah. And I'm going to guess that band was probably inescapable for you living in that area and probably getting attracted to, punk or hardcore in your early years.
Surprisingly, they didn't really have anything to do with me getting into the scene.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually got into Propagandhi because a girl I liked was a big fan of theirs. But
amazing. In
terms of getting into the scene in Winnipeg, not a lot of people in the US know them, but this band called Kittens, who was
on Sonic Unyon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
They were the band that did it for me. And I didn't even know they were local, but saw a show poster. I was already a fan. Me and our original bassist, Daryl Axtell, went to go see in a dirty basement Wellingtons. It was Kittens and like a ska punk band and like a weird kind of emo band. And we're talking like real emo, like OG emo.
Sure.
But Kittens, like it was an all ages show. At the time, I think we were 14 or 15. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But Kittens was not an all ages band. So they played this all ages show, tons of people there. And as soon as Kittens started, everyone took like 20 steps backward. And Daryl and I were right up front. And they were writhing and spitting and just the most feral thing I'd ever seen. And like it changed my life. I had to be in a band when I saw that.
That's incredible because that, first of all, I never knew Kittens being from Winnipeg. I just knew them like based on their Sonic Unyon connection. And, they were such a strange band. In the way that obviously, like you said, they never came across the border from a, American perspective, like getting any recognition. But it's like, there's so many bands that are so country specific where it's like, Tristan Psionic or whatever, like all these bands that are just like, dude, no one knows about them in the States. And the Kittens are definitely a band that just didn't have any resonance in this country.
It's really too bad too. Cause like if they would have toured or made an attempt to really tackle that market, I think they could have done pretty well. Cause especially like they started off pretty Melvin's worship, but what they turned into became, I feel, truly unique in what the noise rock community has and had. And actually their Bazooka and the Hustler record still really holds up to modern material because of how well it was recorded. Like, it doesn't sound dated at all to me. Maybe I am a little biased because it is one of my favorite records that has ever been made. And I am like, I've been friends with the members of the band. So, but it's I feel a truly special rock record, and it's really too bad that they never got the recognition they deserved. And part of it is just because they threw in the towel earlier than maybe they should have. And that's arguably why people know Ken Mode when they probably shouldn't, because we refuse to throw the towel in.
Right. And it is, you hit on a very interesting topic that I think, a lot of bands wrestle with as they, either if they, break up or stop playing together and then start a different iteration or whatever. It's like the bands that you can point to that, are able to not even reinvent themselves, but just to, like, to your point, persist. Just be like, whether or not, like, we've ridden waves of popularity up and down, it's like, as long as there's this like slow continual growth, like, we'll be able to find our space.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of the time that doesn't even work out, which is the funny thing. And I kind of can't believe it has worked out for us. Like, things are better now than they've ever been for this band. And I feel lucky that they are going as well as they are. And I'm not going to pretend like we haven't worked really hard at it, but like, that doesn't mean you're owed anything. So it's definitely wild that here we are in 2023, the band is 24 years old, and like, we can actually pay our members something when we go on tour. Like, that's crazy to me.
Let's be real. It's 2024 and you have only 10 band shirts? Come on. Let us get you into new shirts by going to rockabilia.com and using this promo code 100 words or less. It gets you 10% off your entire order. And what's even cooler is they have a 70% off warehouse sale right now. Like, they're going through their archives. They're pulling out shirts that, have just been kind of languishing on their shelves. And you can take advantage of that. I mean, if you want to buy an Aretha Franklin shirt or a Bullet for My Valentine shirt or a Bring Me the Horizon t-shirt, like, we're talking about a wide palette of music that Rockabilia exists in, but it's all officially licensed. And that means it's high quality stuff and the bands get paid. They ship it from the Midwest here in the United States of America. And I love this company so much. They've supported this podcast for, 5-6 years. And I just love what they do. Hardcore Kids work there, just ticks all the boxes for things that I like to support and love. And plus, band merch, man. Come on. You need more shirts. Just plain and simple. So go to rockabilia.com, use the promo code 100 words or less, and enjoy 10% off your entire order, and just look cooler amongst your friends, or just give it as a gift, It's a win-win situation. So rockabilia.com, 100 words or less is the promo code. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. You know what it's like when the new year happens. Everyone has all of these resolutions and things they're going to do. And then obviously 3 weeks later, it's gone. And that is why I personally, every time we're talking about New Year's, new you, all that sort of stuff, you focus on the things that you can control, whether it's I'm going to make my bed every day, or I am going to, tackle this thing that seems insurmountable, but you just do it one step at a time. And then all of a sudden you're there. It's done. That is why I personally love therapy. It is a great way for you to interact with another person, find out your strengths and weaknesses, be able to talk through those weaknesses, and then hopefully have those things stick and then last throughout the rest of the year. Listen, I know that therapy may be daunting, but that is why I love working with BetterHelp, because they make it super simple. You do a very simple online survey and it connects you with an official licensed therapist, and it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Like I said, all you do, fill out a brief questionnaire, and then if you are in the middle of sessions with a certain therapist and you're not vibing, you can switch, no problem whatsoever. Celebrate the progress that you have already made. Visit betterhelp.com/Ray today to get 10% off of your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Ray. Go enjoy your life. A lot of that is a testament to the fact that, you not only did you guys dedicate yourselves more to obviously going out and, continuing to push the live envelope from that side of things. But then you continue to, be prolific in releasing music, because there definitely is that idea of, if you're a band that has to exist in the music industry, every, year and a half or 2 years, you got to put out a new record to, satiate the public and, go on tour or whatever. Yeah. And you guys have been able to, sort of be able to call your shots from that side of things. You'd be like, yeah, it's going to be 3 or 5 years before you're going to get another one. And then sometimes it'll be a year, like you just did.
Yeah. And that was only because of the pandemic. Because
right.
we wrote 2 records at the same time.
Right. It's like, oops, sorry. Yeah. So I know, like you were mentioning, the Kittens was a huge band for you, but how did that get introed to you? Was it, like you and your brother kind of ping-ponging off of each other of music that you were, being excited about, or did you get exposed via friends at school, or how'd that go?
Honestly, at that stage of the game, Shane was more of a tag along. It was me and Daryl who was our first bassist.
Okay.
We were like best buds. I mean, Shane and I were best friends, but like Daryl was my next best friend through junior high and high school, and him and I were kind of on the musical journey at the time, and it was like the dawn of the internet type stuff. I think he may have discovered Kittens in some free magazine that was in an HMV in the mall that we'd go to get CDs. That'd be where Kittens came from. But I know, I remember in the early days of Netscape, people used to make weird websites dedicated to bands, and you'd do searches for the Melvins, and all of a sudden this site would pop up that was dedicated to talking about Cop Shoot Cop, The Cows, and Unsane. It's like, I don't know why this came up, but I'm going to check all this out. And then you're a fan of those 3 bands. And it was such a weird time. But also, from the perspective of being a teenager discovering music, it was absolutely the Wild West. And it was just so cool. But I know for opening up the underground sense, the big one for me was, and for millions of kids, Nirvana was the one.
Right. That it just opened up the portal, and then you kind of, went down and found all the things that you needed to find.
Yeah. It was In Utero that did it, and then I read the book that Michael Azerrad, Come As You Are, and basically went and looked up most of the bands that Kurt referenced in it, like Bad Brains, Black Flag, Jesus Lizard, Big Black, Scratch Acid, and from there you just go down that rabbit hole. Now you're into Touch and Go Records. Now you're into Amphetamine Reptile.
Right. And now you know all these, right? Now you know what these words mean. Whereas, if you say them to an average citizen, they're just like, "What do you mean, AMRAP? What is this?" Yeah,
it's a touch and go. What is this, some sort of sexual thing?
Totally. Did your parents have any reservation in regards to you starting to bring home some very weird music, and then probably when you started to play in bands and stuff like that, or were they generically pretty supportive?
They're the reason I even got a Nirvana tape in the first place. My dad wanted to listen to it, and he thought he might be too old to buy it for himself.
Shut up. That is unbelievable.
This is all his fault.
I love the fact, just that wherewithal that your dad had, where he's like, man, this is way too young for me.
Is this too try-hardy? I don't know. I'm going to get this for the kid. See how this goes.
Right. Is this cringe, as the kids would say? Jeez.
It's kind of awesome because now at this stage in his musical development, I'm like his truffle pig for this stuff. So I only share music with him that I think is the top 15 of the year. So whenever I buy a CD for myself, I usually buy a copy for him. So he's shy of pretty extreme metal, which he's not always super into. Anything else I like, he generally likes.
That's incredible. Because usually, especially once kids start to get into stuff that is clearly left of center and something that it wouldn't even make sense to most parents, the fact that you can show him things that would be stretching any boundaries, he's like, yeah, I'm following along.
Yeah. He likes weights to neurosis now.
Incredible. So what was the proverbial, I mean, I know that from a professional perspective, you do business planning and management for bands and stuff like that. Was there an expectation that you were going to set forth in your parents' footsteps as far as being an accountant and everything like that? Or was the palette wide open?
It was pretty wide open. And honestly, when I came out of high school, I thought I was going to go down into the science path. And I started there in university, but quite literally felt like I had a out-of-body experience when I was in a lab and decided I had to get out of the sciences because I didn't think I'd ever be able to amount to anything because I didn't really care. And the only thing that I did care about was music. And the only way I was ever going to make any money in music was if I got a business degree and potentially worked in the music industry. So, like, we're talking maybe 2000, I started this long game of hopefully working in the music industry.
Sure.
And by I guess it was 2016 that Shane and I decided to try to do the thing with that. And we're making a living now. So that's cool. It's cool that stupid 18-year-old brain had a long game that actually played out and worked.
Sure. I do love that concept. I mean, I'm sure you experienced it as you started to, play shows outside of, Winnipeg and tour and all that sort of stuff. Just the idea of the business person of the band, usually it gets thrust onto the vocalist because that, for whatever reason, it just always is. But it sounds like you had maybe an interest or a proclivity as you started to do that, where it's oh yeah, I'll be the, business person because I know roughly what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of took the reins of it just because I'm the most proactive with everything to do with the band anyway. But actually, I don't, Shane does most of the accounting now. I guess we kind of split some of it because I handle all the online store stuff. So I do the nitty gritty transactional stuff there just because it helps me keep organized in shipping things. So I handle the PayPal and the Shopify, and then he does everything else, the higher level accounting. But it is funny because we literally will do financial accounting on tour. So we know where things are at any one moment. He might not do it every day, but it'll be every second day for sure. So it's kind of cool because we'll know exactly how the tours are doing in real time.
Right. I mean, that is really the concept of I'm sure you felt this as you first started a tour, when you level up and are okay, now we're going to keep inventory of our merch. And just when you start to add these little things on, but you've obviously big brained it to where it's oh yeah, we know exactly how this is going to go.
Yeah.
Roughly speaking.
My dad used to kind of put the gears to us super early on, trying to get us to do things the way he would. And back then, we didn't have the numbers or experience to be able to do any of that. So it was one of those Dad, none of this matters. And straight up now, of course we do all that because we have the data and I love using the data.
That's incredible. I'm guessing, was Ken Mode your actual first band, or did you play in some, terrible stuff before that?
Ken Mode's the first one that ever played any actual shows. And it's honestly, it was just the last name that the same three people were playing in anyway. So Shane, Daryl, and I started playing probably around 96.
Okay.
And by the time we started playing shows, it was Ken Mode. But it was still just the three of us.
Got it. And because Ken Mode from a classification perspective is it's you're not necessarily a metal band, you're not necessarily a hardcore band, you're obviously just, you're classic fence sitters, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you kind of classify yourself as that, as you were starting to get into music? I mean, I know you were saying the, Nirvana, Beatcats, Scratch Acid, and et cetera, et cetera. Did you find yourself, I guess, gravitating towards, being a, punk kid, metal kid, hardcore kid, or was it pretty agnostic?
Because I got into everything through basically noise rock, I felt no allegiance to anything. And like Winnipeg had a really strong noise rock scene in the 90s, but by the time we really entered the scene, it had almost completely died. So we were clinging to playing with like hardcore bands and the odd punk band, grindcore bands like Malfaction, who actually they were a hardcore band first, but yeah, we didn't really have a scene. So it's always been strange. And I've never, even as the band has developed, like we've never really fit into any one category. We're a little too metallic for a lot of noise rock purists. We're clearly too noisy for most hardcore kids. Most metal people think we're just noise. So it's been strange. We end up finding fans in people that don't follow any one thing, and they end up being kind of weird like we are.
Right. No, and I agree with you, because I see the through lines of like, you know, looking at all those labels like we were talking about at the top of the conversation, where it's like you almost were able to pick out like a Hydra Head kid, where it's like, oh yes, like, you know, they just look maybe like they're totally fine standing by themselves in a room listening to weird loud music that you wouldn't really be able to easily define, and that's totally fine, and they're good with that.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, like, if they talk to a hardcore kid, like, they have similar roots, and yet they also have similar roots to some of the metal kids. And then they also have some bands that both of those kids would hate. So it's
right.
just a strange mishmash.
It is. When you started to tour and, you know, play outside of Winnipeg and everything like that, did you like touring? Was it as you anticipated, or was it something that you were very taken aback by?
I don't know. I don't know if I ever like specifically liked it. I also didn't hate it, but it's always felt like it was a means to an end no matter what, even from the first tour onward. Like we've been kind of fortunate in the way we've approached some things, where like our first tour ever, we kind of piggybacked on that band The End, who was on Relapse back.
Oh yeah. Yep. I remember them.
2002. They had a tour that was booked that was supposed to be with another band. The other band couldn't do it. So we just like hopped on it. And that was our first tour ever. Like most bands like us need to like truly eat shit trying to do their own thing and booking it. And we just hopped on a thing with The End, which, I mean, we've eaten our fair share of shit. Don't get me wrong. But like, that was like a really good first feather in our cap when we're trying to like do the industry thing. Like, yeah, you've heard of The End, right? Yeah. We toured with them. Oh, really?
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're legitimate. Like, we can probably talk to like maybe Darkest Hour to like take us out or something like that. Like we can at least drop the End's name.
Yeah, it's at least something.
Right. What did you, like you said, you kind of had your rough sights set on the music industry, broadly speaking. You know, what sort of inroads were you trying to make? Like, did you want to work at a label and obviously like be an accountant, or did you want to do A&R, even though you probably didn't even know what that word meant at the time? Like, were
I had no hot clue.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, like, after getting a business degree, you find out that nobody in the music industry actually knows how to run a business at all, which is just funny. And I mean, that's part of why Shane and I have a career now, because we have legitimate business skills and we're not crooks. So it's pretty easy to start getting clients pretty quickly. One of the things people complain about now is that it's unfortunate that we aren't American or European, because they all wish they had a version of us. Right. So, hey, that's kind of cool. It's nice, nice to have other people telling us that.
Right. It is, because I think it's, I mean, especially when you are young and you're just like, okay, I like music. I want to try to figure out whatever I can do to make a living out of it. Whether that, I mean, because no one, especially when you get attracted to heavy music, it's not like there's a lot of paths forward to be like, oh yes, you know, we're either, I guess we're either Hatebreed or, you know, some other band like maybe that can try to like make a living out of this. But I mean, I guess in the 2000s, you started to see a little bit of a path. I mean, now there definitely is a clear path, but
and even that, it's weird that there is a path.
It's true. I mean, I guess maybe the path is just the idea of like the fact that you can be, more clear eyed about your approach, where it's like, oh yeah, like you don't have to, lose your butt on this tour because you can make these, predictions of like, oh yes, we're getting paid $100 a night. Maybe we shouldn't buy a van first off. Like maybe we should rent this or whatever.
Yeah. And even with all that, like it's interesting how little so many musicians actually make.
Yeah, no, especially when you're talking about like, and I'm sure you've done this exercise of the amount of time spent versus, an hourly rate. It's like, yeah.
Let's not even talk about that.
It's a fruitless for many years. I put on that Sound and Fury music festival down here in California. And it was one of those things. I did that exercise with my friend where we were like, because it wasn't our full-time job. So we just did it because obviously love of the game. I mean, yes, we made some money off of it, but just the idea of like, oh, so we could have done a lot less work and worked at like a Starbucks and we would have been like 4Xing our income. Like this is crazy. Yeah.
Shane always says, if you want to make money, go work at a bank.
It's true. They give out free samples, right? No, just kidding.
You gotta hopefully like what you're doing a little bit with this stuff. So
exactly, you're right. I have to focus specifically on a song of yours. Usually, I don't get this nerdy in regards to specific bands and or songs, but the a love letter to me, like when I've like I said, I've always enjoyed your band, but like that song spoke to me in ways that I was just like, oh my gosh, like it kind of unlocked another portal for me to like you even more, where I basically was just like, oh, so basically this is like Dead Guy, except in 2022, we'll call it or whatever, even though Dead Guy obviously exists now. But I can't help but notice your, fandom for Dead Guy and obviously representing them by wearing, their shirts on stage and stuff like that. Have you, does that resonate with you? Or I presume you probably have liked Tim Singer's projects like overall?
I mean, Tim is on one of our records.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, that's amazing.
He sings on "No, I'm in Control" on our Entrench record.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'll have to pay closer attention there.
Yeah, I mean, Dead Guy. I've always liked Dead Guy, but honestly, I like Kiss It Goodbye more.
Hell yeah, I love that.
And this is funny because I've said this online a bunch of times, and then Tom from Kiss It Goodbye will chime in. The EP that Damien was on for Kiss It Goodbye is my favorite material that Tim was ever on, and I feel it's the best of the whole Kiss It Goodbye Dead Guy whole catalog. And I mean, that's part of why I love Damien so much, though, too. Like, and actually, legitimately, Damien may be the reason that anyone has ever heard of us.
Right. He does have the ability to champion bands in his own way.
Yeah, it was a weird chain reaction though, because like he discovered Ken Mode on mp3.com. He exchanged messages with me, and this was like at the very beginning of when Playing Enemy started too. And he's the one who introduced me to Gordon Conrad. So
amazing.
And Gordon's the only reason anyone knows us too.
Right. Yeah. Well, happenstance, like when you, especially when you resonate with certain people, like that's the awesome part about putting out art, whatever it's music or anything. You never know who it will impact. And then obviously the different roads that it'll throw you down.
Yeah. And it's refreshing when you meet those types of people and it really reaffirms that we're all just a bunch of nerds looking for things that make us feel good and trying to share it with others. And nothing exemplifies that more than that situation. And now, like us championing the new Great Falls record to anyone who will listen, like, yeah, I just want to share this cool shit that people should hear.
Totally. And this just happens to be that I have to tour in a band to, let you know about that, and my band as well. But like, we want you to be into the stuff we're into.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's funny you mentioned the band shirt thing, because I know we both get flack from people and also like endless props. It's funny when people give us flack and claim we're like being tryhards or something. It's like, this is my actual wardrobe. Do you think someone's dressing us in our photos? Like, we're wearing clothes that we wear in everyday life. We just are fans of bands and like wearing band shirts. It's been a really weird discourse that I've seen over this last couple of years.
It is, to me, it's mind-numbingly stupid, especially if you're talking about, like, it's a different story if you're, like throwing stones of at some public figure that's like, oh, dude, whatever, like Kylie Jenner doesn't know who Agnostic Front is or whatever. That's a whole different, but if you're being like, oh, dude, why are you wearing a Dead Guy shirt, Jesse? Like, it's like, what? That's a problem? Why?
I own this shirt.
Yeah.
It's my shirt, man.
Exactly.
I wore an early grave shirt because I like that shirt.
Right. I enjoy the band, and it's a great form of advertising for them when I wear it on stage and everybody wins.
I'm wearing my favorite Entombed shirt right now while we're speaking here.
Spectacular. Something that I know that you have experience with, and I'd like to hear exactly when you started to become aware of the grant system. I've always, being from America, and then I worked at Century Media Records for many years, and actually a band from Winnipeg that you are maybe tangentially familiar with called Burn the 8-Track.
Yep.
So I was shocked because I worked with that band. Like, they're, cool at what they did, but talk about an amazing grant writer. The singer got like hundreds and thousands of dollars for marketing in regards to like music videos and stuff like that. So when did you become like aware of the fact that like, you could get grants? And like, I always find it so interesting because bands of your nature, and then like, even Cursed or whatever has dipped into Factor. So yeah, walk me through your experience with that.
Yeah. I mean, I was aware of them because of things going on in the 90s. Like it being on the back of like a Shallow North Dakota record, or the Cursed records and Burn the 8-Track. And but we didn't start tapping into it actually until after we won, or no, I guess it was right before we won a JUNO.
Okay.
I remember I tried to get some marketing money for our Venerable record, because like that was the record that we were trying to really, really push. And I did get some marketing money through our province. It wasn't a huge amount, but like it allowed me to do like a radio campaign in the US for college radio, and something in Canada too. And it just generally allowed us to start pushing the band to people who might not know us. And I mean, even early on, I was one of the early adopters with Facebook marketing. And it's too bad things aren't still like that. But I remember shocking a lot of people because you could get super specific in how you target it back then. And we gained a lot of fans as we were trying to first start touring the US again that way. But anyway, to circle back to grants,
Sure.
It wasn't till around like 2012 that we really started going after them, and I started learning how to both get them and use them to the fullest extent. And since then, like since Shane and I started doing MKM management services, that's actually how I make a lot of money, because I do the grant writing for a lot of other heavy bands, because a lot of bands in our community didn't necessarily know they could even access that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the like quantitative stats that they use to determine whether or not a band can kind of is quote like worthy, a lot of Canada's heavier bands crush all the like radio friendly indie stuff. So
sure,
I kind of started spreading filth throughout that system. And I've been pretty successful at getting a lot of like pretty not commercial sounding bands some money. It's been really cool.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that because I do think that is such a unique thing that obviously happens in Canada and, countries in Europe and stuff. And it's such obviously a foreign concept for us here in America, where it's just like, wait a minute, what? Like the government would rather, set you on fire down here. Yeah. But the fact that you can point to, like you said, the metrics that can show the fact that like, yes, this band is literally getting Canada on the map, this province on the map in ways that, these other grants might not, the money might not go as far or whatever.
Yeah. And a lot of the bands that they still favor these bands, but a lot of the bands that they do pour a lot of money into end up becoming like indie darlings in Canada, and they just don't click anywhere else. And the big thing I can always point to with especially like the bands I work with is there are international names first and foremost. Like they're making their money in Europe. They're making their money in the US. Canada is just kind of an afterthought with all that. So, and ultimately with a lot of these Canada Heritage funds, like having cultural exports is a big deal. So it's kind of a no-brainer to fund some of these groups because they are quite literally like art that is successful around the world from Canada.
Right. Yeah. It's like the literal definition of what you are trying to accomplish. Like, here you go. This is what it is.
Yep. And just because Gorguts doesn't sound like Celine Dion doesn't mean they shouldn't get some cash.
Exactly. That's a great pull. I was hoping that you were going to do something like that. Our friends at evilgreed.net are back and they're supporting the show. And you know what? You can buy vinyl and t-shirts and CDs from them. And it's awesome because they actually have a description, in my opinion, that is perfect for what it is that they do. Obviously, they offer web store solutions for bands and record labels, but you, as the consumer, will be able to order from them all in one convenient spot. And they are a heavy music, merchandise, and records provider. But let me just list some of the bands that they're working with. But before I do that, you need to use this promo code 100 words. It gets you 10% off of your entire order. And I love the company because let's talk about some of the new stuff they have going on. Whether you're looking to maybe buy the new high vis record on tape, or how about, a no pressure shirt, or how about the awesome band that made my top 10 of 2023, Homefront. You can order a few of their LPs, or Chisel, or Malevolence. Like, they have so many cool bands and record labels that they work with, but it's all under the guise of the heavy side of things. So trust me in saying that if you listen to the show, you will absolutely love what evilgreed.net has to offer. They ship it from Berlin, Germany. It gets to us in the United States lickety split, and the shipping rates are very advantageous for us as far as the exchange rate's concerned. So please order from evilgreed.net, and please use the promo code 100 words. It will get you 10% off your order, and you can order to your heart's content. Okay? So go browse and have fun.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
And so as you were as Ken Mode was putting out records and getting your start and everything like that, like you said, you were clearly not like making a living off of, your music and everything like that. Were you, doing accounting and like working, for lack of a better term, like a quote unquote regular job?
Yeah, after graduating university in, end of 2004, I actually got a marketing and small business management degree, but I was one of the first wave of millennials that learned that, well, quite literally, because I guess the technical term for a millennial is people born from 1981 onward, and I was born in 81. So I learned the hard way that just because you have a university degree doesn't mean you're going to get a job in your field, which prior to that was not a thing.
Right. Totally. Yeah. It's like you get a degree and then you do the thing.
Yeah. And I couldn't. So that came with some baggage. So I started doing accounting because that's something I could get a job in, and did that from 2005 through 2011 when I quit and we went on the road full time.
Okay. Was that decision was that difficult for you to arrive to? Because I know, like you said, there was a real demarcation from the decision to be like, yes, we're going to go out there, we're going to make this band, whatever it may turn into. Was that a difficult decision, or was it relatively easy because you wanted to do it?
I mean, it was a tricky one because I was either going to go back to school or we were going to try this. And I was making that decision at the same time that my brother was graduating from the CA School of Business. So he got his chartered accountancy. And he was faced with like, do I jump into industry and become like a controller of a company? And he was only 25 years old. So it's like, I don't really want to like start a career in something right now. So I kind of mildly convinced him like, we should try this thing just so we never look back and go like, what if we tried, you know? So when we made that decision, it still took 2 years to build us up to a point where we felt like we had something we could work, because we'd just gone on our first European tour, which was like a couple week, like fun thing with a band called Taint from Wales. We just got a new bassist. So we started laying the groundwork to try to do it full time. So we wrote a bunch of songs. I made plans to record with Kurt Ballou because I felt like it would help to have like a proper producer making this record and someone within our scene that could at least like, it would help having the connection to a guy like him, because obviously Converge was like completely owning everything at the time. And he was really, really growing as a producer too. So a lot of really neat records were getting made out of his studio. So I thought this was our first attempt at trying to record even outside of our city. So I thought this was a good idea. So we booked him, recorded it in 2010. Then I started laying on the framework for trying to put it out. We lined up with Profound Lore Records, which felt like a good fit to like take this first step. So, 2011 came and I think we put the album out in March and we toured for the rest of the year.
Sure. I definitely, I mean, I know almost every single interview since you won the JUNO Award, like no one can't mention it. And obviously I'm going to fall right in line with that. Yeah. I just remember where it was just like, this is so weird. Like, I mean, I remember it, not because like you don't deserve it, but it's just like, that's bizarre. Like, here's a band, like in the same way you could understand why a band like Alexis on Fire is winning like multiple JUNO Awards, even though, you know, they were, I mean, like just friends of mine or whatever, just in the same way that I felt like I was friends with you, even though I didn't know you. It was probably like so surreal, bizarre, whatever you want to call it. Did you have feelings towards that of just like, all right, I guess we're along for this ride. This seems funny.
Yeah, that was absolutely the feeling. Like we had no expectations. It was strange that we were even nominated, and then to win, like we were for sure the underdogs. We were the least popular of all the bands that were up for it. And winning was, we literally just started laughing.
Right.
Like I really did ham it up when we went up there. Like I stretched my arms out. It was just like, what is this? What is going on? I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was cool.
Sure. What would you say? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot here. What was the most either bizarre or interesting interaction that you had with, you know, that sort of more mainstream world of being like, who is like, you know, interviews I'm sure you did, or like maybe it was people, you know, randomly DMing you guys or whatever. Do you have any things that stick out in your mind?
I know because of that, we got approached by booking agents and management people and labels in Canada that were for sure completely inappropriate.
Right. You're like, did you listen to us?
Yeah. And I know even that we did have a Canadian agent for a while that we did get as a result of this. And he was a real piece of shit. I'd later find out that he was like actively talking shit on us while representing us to like talent buyers in cities. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Right. Right. Like we're going to talk
on for this guy now.
Sure. Like, yeah, we're going to talk to these promoters because we've played shows with them before, even before you were involved or whatever.
Anyway, there was for sure some weird scenarios, but I mean, for the most part, people were pretty cool. Even like the press leading up to the JUNOs, we got featured in a lot of the articles because it was the first time they brought the heavy metal / hard music JUNO. It was the first one. So I think it's almost like they were trying to give metal a different image while they were presenting this new award, because they did focus on us a fair amount leading up to it. And I think it was simply because we had the accounting background. It was kind of like, not all metalheads are long-haired, drugged out losers. Like, look at these fine young boys.
Totally. Here's some respectable number crunchers that happen to play heavy music, right?
Just don't listen to them. For the love of God, don't listen to them.
Totally. It's like their band name is agnostic, where you can't really necessarily tell what they sound like. They are somewhat presentable human beings. Like, yes, they're wearing weird shirts or whatever, but they don't look, like the typical metal band or whatever. So I can see the calculations that someone would go through to be like, oh yeah, this seems like a safe award to give this band to.
Yeah. I still think a good part of the reason we ever got any push in the larger kind of mainstream underground press was because of how we are a little bit left of center. We're in terms of something that's a little bit more presentable and a weird story like accountants. Why?
Yeah.
And
totally.
then they, as soon as they kind of got that initial shock of presenting it out, then they never touched us again, which is fine.
Totally. Or it's like, hey, we've already gone through that press cycle. Like, that story isn't interesting. What else you got?
Yeah. We definitely got picked up by Pitchfork for like a year, and then they decided they wanted to destroy us and have nothing to do with us. And that's fine.
Right. Your next record gets a 3.0 and they're like, okay, I see where we sit now.
Yeah. And that was quite literally how it played out.
It's perfect.
3.0, I think it was maybe a 4 point something. And yeah, did they talk some shit?
Woo! Well, I mean, at that point, you have truly made it, because you've obviously, when you become a divisive band to that, type of reader, it's like, all right, I think we've accomplished something here.
Yeah, we must be doing something right.
Right. Where, out of pure curiosity, where is your JUNO? Like, do you have it on a mantelpiece? Is it, in the storage unit, or where is it?
Mine is on my parents' piano.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move it. I'm kind of like quasi actively looking for a house right now, which seems insane. But, I mean, I'm a 42-year-old man, and my partner and I have some money that we have for a down payment. So I think we can pull it off, because we live in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg sucks. So when I buy a house, I'm going to display it somewhere there.
Right. Or you could bring that into the, house tour with a realtor and be like, hey, maybe we get a little discount on this. Do you know who we are?
Yeah. I think that'll impress Winnipeg sellers for sure.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. Last two things I wanted to hit on was the, actually, apropos of you talking about buying a house, like, considering the band's location and like how much effort it takes to, basically go anywhere outside of Winnipeg from a touring perspective. Do you kind of reflect on like the, non-geographical nature that most bands exist in now? Like, yes, bands start in maybe a city or whatever, but like, you can't really point to them being like, oh, like, if you play in New York, I can totally hear like the New York City hardcore or whatever. Like, is it, how do you reflect on that, like, lack of regionality that exists for most bands these days?
Yeah, that's the internet. It's 100% the internet.
Yep, totally.
Which it can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's removed some of the special qualities of the regional shtick, but at the same time, like, when something clicks, you can have a built-in audience immediately. And like, I don't know, in case in point with a band like Chatpile, where like, there are a bunch of guys who are just doing local bands all the way up until they're all almost 40. And then they put together the right ingredients for this band that just clicks at the right time. And like, their first tours are sold out 600 cap rooms all across America. Like, what the actual fuck is going on? So
right.
That side of it is like, can be super cool. But like, yeah, I kind of do lament the days of the regional scene, because like, you'd see some really weird stuff, like even Winnipeg, like throughout the 90s and then the early 2000s, like we had weird little pockets of like, I mean, I was a part of it, a strange subsect of bands that didn't really fit in anywhere. And it certainly was because of Winnipeg, but you don't see that anymore.
Right. And on that sort of general idea of like, the presentation that bands obviously have to do, on the internet, like it seems like not only your personality, but then just kind of the band's personality cuts through really well in the fact that like, yes, we take our music seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. Not like you're just, some jokester band like the Aquabats or something like that. But although it would be kind of cool if you, leaned a little bit in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we got a saxophone player.
I know it is true. I mean, there is brass in the band, so we're close.
Y'all better look out for what's next.
One can only hope. And I'm sure you've gotten like in the same way that, people have commented on shirts you're wearing and stuff, like have people, either come at you or commented on the, the fact that you're like not this like super serious, overwrought band, or have, you kind of not seen that percolate towards you?
No, I haven't really seen much attitude. Usually, people, it actually, I think, warms people up to us, especially after they've seen us live, because like the stage show is hostile. It's very, I mean, we were raised on all things 80s and 90s underground, and like there was not much of a sense of humor with a lot of that, and we do not have a sense of humor on stage. But as soon as we get off, like I don't want to do well unless something really fucked up happens at the show. Then I might want to actually hurt someone. But
sure,
we generally are working out our shit through that thing. So especially like from a writing perspective, I feel like I'm, at least prior to the pandemic, I felt like I was getting better and better at concentrating all the bad, toxic things in my life down to this poison that we're putting into this music. Although I do think that the pandemic has done some damage that it's going to take years to fix.
Sure.
Just in terms of being irritable and angry. And I really put a lot of work into not being that. And I'm for sure angrier than I was before the pandemic, but
sure. Whatever. Yeah. It'll take a few years to sand those edges down, so to speak.
Yeah.
If at all, right.
I probably need therapy, but fuck it.
No, obviously that's why you have, the saxophone. That's what you hear.
Who needs therapy when you have a saxophone?
I'm going
to tell Catherine that tomorrow.
Right. Totally. You can just be like, you know what? I think we solved the problem here. Like, what licensed therapist doesn't have a saxophone in the background of their Zoom chat or whatever, And
that's why she's the cheeriest one in the band. It's because she's tooting that horn.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Jesse, I very much appreciate you goofing around and hanging out with me. Like I said, I enjoyed what you've done for a long time, and now you will be a friend of mine, whether you liked it or not.
Hell yeah.
Yes, that was Jesse, and hopefully you learned some stuff because, Jesse was not only spitting truth about his band, but, talking about the grant system. Oh man, I love grant talk, which I know sounds absolutely ridiculous to say out loud, but I just find it so fascinating that the rest of the world has programs to support the arts and not here in America, just God bless America or something like that. Anyways. Thank you to Jesse, and thank you to Curran, a longtime friend of mine, and he's a PR extraordinaire human being, and so he brought this idea to me. We made it happen. It was great. Let's talk about what's happening next week. I have Keith Buckley, ex Every Time I Die, but now currently plays in a band called Many Eyes, who is, embarking on their first tour with Thursday and rival schools. And it's going to be very, very exciting to watch that transpire. But Keith and I, we spent some time on the road many, many moons ago, and it was a great chat. Keith was a good hang. And that's all we really want here, right? A nice hang. You get to know a person, hopefully like their art a little bit better, or you just come to understand the person a little more. So anyways, until next week, please be safe, everybody. The show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Trust me in saying that no matter who you are, mental health challenges can affect you, and how you manage them can make all of the difference. That's why everyone should have access to mental health support that meets them where they are and helps them get through. BetterHelp provides online therapy on your schedule. It's flexible, simple to use, and more affordable than in-person therapy. Connect with a licensed therapist selected just for you. Learn more at betterhelp.com. That's betterhelp.com.
Hey, it's Malcolm Gladwell, host of Revisionist History. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Your elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a drive entirely its own. Brake kits, LED headlights, whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
This is Holly Fry from Stuff You Missed in History class. Toyota is a leader when it comes to electrified vehicles. Today, battery EVs make up less than 10% of new vehicles sold because of higher cost and concerns about range and charging. Enter Beyond Zero, Toyota's vision for a carbon-neutral future. With an electrified, diversified lineup of hybrids, plug-in hybrids, and battery EVs, Toyota empowers you to choose how to reduce your own carbon footprint. Learn more and get details at toyota.com/beyondzero. Toyota, let's go places.